Hello, Pennsylvania. Welcome once again to Money in Motion with Walt West, financial advisor and the founder of West Advisory Group. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and every single week, Walt likes to talk about retirement planning strategies and solutions. Mr. Walt West, is today the greatest day of your life?
Today is another great day of my life, right? Every day getting up and helping people is just a fantastic day, yeah? So it's excited to be here.
Well, and you know, in fact, that's what you do every single day in the offices. Today we're going to be talking about the things to consider before you go into retirement. This isn't just about have you saved enough, of course, incredibly important, and Walt and the team will help you do projections, but it's also about lifestyle. It's also about what you want to do. It's about having purpose in this 10 or 20 or 30 years of a new phase of your life.
Yep.
It's not just about the investments. And I would also say it kind of takes on a great responsibility for yourself to tell someone you're ready to retire. Do you enjoy that responsibility?
Absolutely. And we don't take that responsibility lightly at all, Spike. I mean, it is very, very important to prepare somebody to make that transition from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase. I mean, it's a big undertaking, no doubt about it. I think people don't put enough emphasis on how important it is, right? Oftentimes they have a thought, a hope, a dream, and a prayer, but they don't really have anything that they really show for it. There's nothing that's documented, nothing they can see, nothing they can say that's tangible. They can visualize what this might look like as they navigate through retirement, as things evolve, right? There's so many things that could happen to you, the what ifs in life that you have to prepare for, right? You don't want to, you know, we often say it's, you know, it's not about crisis planning, right? It's about being proactive, not reactive, right? So it's very, very important. But one of the first things that people really need to do when they start thinking about planning for retirement is determine what is your number. You might say, well, what does that mean? What is your number? The number is, what is it going to take to maintain your lifestyle, right? There's two types of incomes. There's your needs, and then there's your wants. Of course, you got to pay your insurance, your utilities. If you still have a mortgage, you got to, you know, keep the roof over your head. You got to pay for those things. Those are fixed expenses, but it's all the bucket list stuff, right? People that what they want to do that they've been putting off for many, many years because they weren't able to do it. Now they want to start checking off some of those boxes, whether it be travel the globe, go back to school, or see the grandkids, or whatever it is they want to do. You got to figure out what is your number. That is the critical element in starting this plan.
Right, and that's difficult for people to project. When you say you got to figure out that number used to be $1 million. It used to be, you know, if we can save $1 million, we're going to be okay for retirement. There's different calculations. Is that sufficient today? How do you feel with that $1 million number as being enough?
It's interesting that you bring it up because people kind of still think in those terms, right? So, and there's been some rule of thumbs out there that you should have at least 75% of your pre-retired income when you move into retirement. I think you got to take a deeper dive into that conversation. It's not necessarily 75% of whatever it is or having $1 million, because $1 million is $1 million, but the question is, how much income is it really going to produce? I think you got to start with how much money do you need to support your lifestyle? I often say to people, I said, well, just use that 75% formula, for example. That means you want to live on 25% of your pre-retired income, when every day is now Saturday, when you spend most of your money. Is that really what you want to do? And people say, no, I don't want to do that, right? So I think you have to look at it a little deeper than that, right? So, you know, the $1 million does produce some sort of money, but what are your other income sources? Do you have a pension? What about your Social Security? If there's a spouse, what about her Social Security, their pension, if they have of that money? So, you know, that equates to capital as well, right? If you had a $2,000 pension, $24,000 a year, I mean, you might need somewhere close to, you know, $800 to $1 million of capital to support that type of guaranteed income stream, right? Well, you won't need $1 million if that makes up part of your income stream. Or you have maybe a $4,000 a month pension. That's $50,000 a year almost. I mean, you need maybe $1.2 million, $1.3 million to support that. Well, you don't need that capital. So I think you got to back the conversation up and really say, what is your number, right? What do I need? Then you go back and say, well, what income sources, what investments do I really need to support that income number? That's really the starting point. I don't think you can build a sustainable retirement plan without knowing those two things.
All right, you and I were talking about this at lunch one time, and I don't really enjoy going to Home Depot or the large places, Lowe's, wherever it is. Yeah. It's overwhelming to me. Now, I know all the tools are in there. I know everything is in there for me to build or fix the bathroom. But I don't know where to start. Even if I bought a whole bunch of things, I'm going to take it back. I'm probably going to do it incorrectly. Within 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to need to call a contractor again to fix everything I messed up in the first place.
Yep.
Having all of these parts and pieces at 62, 64, you might have all of these investments in your life insurance. Maybe you already consider an annuity. But that's very different from what you talk about all the time, and that's having a plan. Right. Those tools and those things that you can get at the big box store, those aren't necessarily a plan.
They're not, right? All they are, they're exactly what you said. They are tools to do a specific job, right? So you really need to start off, what's in your toolbox, right? What is in your toolbox? You take a look at, your financial statement. Oftentimes we call it the financial junk drawer, right? You've done all these things because this is what my brother did, my sister did, my colleague did, so I decided to do this, or I decided to do that, but you really had no meaning behind why you did it, right? You need to gather all those tools up, and you got to say, okay, let's take a look at all these things, and let's start to build the blueprint, right? We got to start with the foundation first. We can't start putting up walls of the house, using your Home Depot analogy, until you know you have a good foundation. If the foundation's cracking, things aren't going to work out. So you really need to understand what's in the toolbox.
So for you, is the foundation the plan, or is the foundation the investments, and that's what you work with and you develop from there?
The foundation is the blueprint. Right? The foundation is, number one, understanding what you want from your retirement. What is the lifestyle in which you want to lead? And then from there, you got to say, okay, if that's the lifestyle, what investments do I need? What tax strategy do I need? What risk management do I need to have in place in case it doesn't work out? If I get sick or I pass away, how am I going to be impacted by that? What is my my debt management plan, my cash flow plan? What is my estate plan? What is my legacy plan, right? If that's important to you. So there's really 5 key elements to any successful plan. You need to identify all 5 of those and understand all the pieces in which you have that represent those. That helps you put all the pieces of the financial puzzle together.
And Walt, I understand that if folks call the phone number right here, or if they use that QR code down on the bottom of the screen, if you open up your phone to the camera function, let it activate on there, click on it, it'll jump you right over to Walt's website, the West Advisory Group. Or if they call the phone number, they can start and get a review on those 5 points that you're talking about, and you'll actually get them started on their own written financial plan.
Absolutely. It's all part of our complimentary lab session. The lab session, we absolutely love it because people gain so much information and really get clarity in what's going on in their world, right? The lab session is a dedicated time to really sit down to do a diagnostic test of your financial situation, right? It helps to prevent money falling through the cracks. So you can identify all the pieces of a financial plan, put it together, make sure all the pieces are working to what it is you ultimately want to accomplish in retirement. But I think the biggest part of coming to the lab session is really determining of how the what ifs in life could potentially impact you or derail what it is you're trying to accomplish, right?
All right.
Being proactive opposed to being reactive.
Folks, call the phone number you see right here so you can get started on your own complimentary lab session with financial advisor Walt West, founder of West Advisory Group. Another thing we're going to talk about when he gets back, it isn't just WW himself. He's got an entire team of financial advisors who all espouse to the same theories in helping you be and stay retired. Call so you can get your own complimentary retirement lab session. 888-585-8701. More with WW when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Money in Motion with Walt West, financial advisor and the founder of West Advisory Group. I am your host, Spike Spangle. Today we're talking about making sure that you understand all of the elements that go into a retirement plan. And if you've never put one together, it can probably seem overwhelming for a lot of folks.
No doubt.
In fact, just even understanding your own work pension plan, your employer plan, your 401k plan, your TSP, there's all different kinds of plans. Not everything is alike. So I don't even understand people think that everyone's retirements can be alike when the plans aren't even alike.
Yeah, they differ in many different capacities, right? So you got 401ks, 403bs, 457, all these jargons, right? These are all tax codes, quite frankly, is what they are, what they represent. But the bottom line is, these plans, the retirement planning world has changed so much. You go back all the way to 1978 when you've seen this big transition from the traditional pension plans to the contribution plans, right? Pension plans are now pretty much a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Those that have them should feel, it's a great benefit, right? So they feel privileged that they have these things. But people really have been kind of put in a position where they got to do this on their own. They got to make contributions, and whether it be pre-tax contributions or after-tax contributions, and this money is growing, and you need to make all the decisions on the elections, how you invest the money. You got to make the decision how much to put in there. And the idea is that you don't know where it's going to take you. 20, 30 years doing the accumulation. You don't know what the end number is, right?
This works. Yes. I'm not sure. Because let's be honest, those plan administrators, they're not really there giving you investment advice. They're telling you how the plan works or how to reset your passcode when I forget it every few weeks.
Yeah.
But they can't tell you, well, you need to save this amount, and when you receive a raise, make sure you put this amount. They're not really doing that kind of financial coaching.
No, they're not. So, and again, I know that I've met with people that talk about, well, we have a representative that comes into our workforce and they kind of help us, with the plan. Like they think that's their financial planner, right, or financial advisor. Well, they're only there to help you make maybe some allocation changes. But when it comes to all the things that are required in a financial plan, they're not going down that road, right? So they have limitations in what they can do, right? So that's not really the trajectory you want to take. But as far as allocating your plan, that makes some sense. But I often ask, well, another thing too is you got retirement calculators, right? So oftentimes they're retirement calculators. I believe in reviewing a lot of those calculations from all the different types of plans out there. I mean, there's some things that are missing in there, right? They don't take all the things that can happen to you when you talk about retirement planning, right? They just talk about what you might have in the future, what the income might look like, but they don't play the what if game.
I know what you're talking about because I've done them as well. And they're like, what is your expected rate of return? I'm like, 7. I like to put a nice number in there. I don't often see what do you expect for inflation, what do you expect your tax bracket to be, and I never see on one of these calculators what happens if your spouse goes into long-term care. Those kinds of questions. They're too simple.
And they are so important in the plan because that's reality, right? The plan's got to be built on reality, and it is very individualized, right? So if you take a look at those retirement calculators, they lump everybody into the same category, but that's not the way life works. Everybody is a little different. Every plan should be individualized, right? But there's no doubt the employer-sponsored plan is a big part of the overall retirement process.
And there's a lot of folks, though, who think that is also their only option for saving. I wanted to ask you about something I've read about recently, in-service withdrawals.
Yes.
I can stay at the workplace, but then there's something else I might be able to do with the retirement accounts. Are there restrictions and limitations to that?
Yeah, so most plans allow for what they call an in-service distribution. So once you reach age 59 and a half, most plans say, hey, if you want to take distribution from here, you have the ability to do that, right? And you can take that distribution and roll that into an individual retirement account.
Because you're not talking about me just, okay, I want 20 grand out of my 401k.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's really important, right? There's the right way and the wrong way to take money out of these plans, right? There's what they call direct rollover and indirect rollover. A direct rollover is where you call up, the custodian, and you say, hey, I want to take an in-service distribution. I'm still working here. Am I able to do that? Yes, you're able to do that. So you would want to know that they want to know that you're going to transfer that into your own individual retirement account. Go from one custodian to another custodian. When you do it that way, there's no tax liability. There's no cost, no delay, right? Very simple, very efficient. Sometimes they'll send a check to you, maybe not to the custodian for the benefit of you, or send it directly to the custodian. If you do an indirect rollover, that means they're going to send you a check that you have to roll over within 60 days, right? But the problem with that, they're going to withhold 20% of the money. And they're going to send that to your partner, your business partner, right? And that is the IRS. Well, that wasn't your goal. You wanted to roll the whole thing over. Now, lo and behold, you'll get that 20% back on your tax return, but ultimately you wanted that to go into an account. So you have to be very careful of doing those in-service distributions, right? So you want to make sure you do it directly, not indirectly. It makes it more efficient.
It's weird. It's all, they've juxtaposed the word. I would think indirectly is not coming to me, but the indirectly is actually coming to me with the 20% of taxes.
Yeah, the direct rollover, insinuates you're going from one custodian to another. Indirect means that you're the middleman. It's coming to you first with the idea it's going to go to the custodian. So you in addition, take that money and give it to them. So,
but the benefit of doing what you're calling an in-service withdrawal into an IRA is that now you're not stuck with some of the limitations of a 401k. Explain that.
So when you, again, not putting the cart before the horse here, right? So I think the plan, again, I can't stress enough, in our firm, we always start with the plan, right? What is the blueprint? What does the plan look like? What is it you ultimately want to accomplish in retirement? What are your goals, right? The plan dictates what you should do with your money. If we determine through the process that taking in-service distribution makes sense because you have limitations in your 401k that can't serve what it's supposed to do for your retirement plan, you got to move it out, right? So you got to take that distribution, you got to put it into an IRA, and you got to reposition those assets to put it in the right tool to do the job in which it's intended to do, right? That is very, very important. So again, without putting the cart before the horse here, let's not just take an in-service distribution because you can do it. You got to do it for a specific reason, for a job in which it now is intended to do as you contemplate making this transition from the accumulation phase to the distribution phase.
This was a very specific conversation, but just one of many, I would say hundreds, if not a couple of thousand, different tiny, small mistakes that people can make, or just they're not aware of. The lab review session is exactly what can illuminate some of these.
Yeah, the lab session is really a time for you to come into the office, spend an hour with us to really go through a dedicated process, to do a diagnostic test, if you will, on your financial situation to see if you have any money falling through the cracks. Really helps you to, should you take money or in-service distribution, to build a better income strategy that's sustainable. So you're in a position where you're never going to have more life than money. That's very important. You can learn that through the lab session, right? Number two, maybe you need to reposition those dollars and have a better tax strategy, right? You'll learn that during the lab session, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Or the lab session also helps educate you so you can ask better questions to get the critical facts, to make better decisions for yourself and your family, right? You simply got to pick up the phone, call 888-585-8701 to schedule that complimentary 60-minute lab session so you can go through this process to determine whether or not you have money falling through the cracks. I think it's very important to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Walt. We're going to take this very short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the biggest retirement planning mistakes that Walt sees in the office every single day. Call the phone number, as Walt said, or you can also use that QR code. Open up the phone that I know that is right next to you on the couch, or probably already in your hand. Go to the camera function, point it at the QR code down on the bottom of the screen. Click on it. It'll take you right over to Walt's website. More Money in Motion with Walt West when we get back right after this.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to Money in Motion with financial advisor Walt West. He's the founder of West Advisory Group right here in Pennsylvania. I am your host, Spike Spangle. We're talking about retirement planning, why the plan itself is so important. A written plan, not just an if plan, but really writing it out and then amending it as well over time. That's part of your lab process.
Absolutely.
Have you ever played either or on your phone, like some worst case scenarios?
Sure, I like that game. That's fun.
Retirement planning mistakes, I'm going to give you either ors. You tell me which one is worse or, I don't know, better. Either or, underestimating the impact of inflation or underestimating how long you will live. Either or, which is worse?
Well, there's some similarity between the two, right? So, underestimating the impact of inflation, just to clarify really what that means, is the fact that you're basically underestimating the amount of money in which that you're going to need into the future, right? So that's very problematic, right? So I think that gives you a false sense of the reality that really is going to take place over time, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as how long you're going to live, right? People are no doubt living longer. So the idea being is that, hey, if you live a long life, then your money continues to erode away. So there's a real problem there, right? So, but it's a personal situation again, right? So the idea is based on your individual situation, whether your current health situation, your family history, that really determines which one's more important than the other. So it goes back to saying either or. For me, I could say, well, it's probably inflation, right? But, because we don't really have longevity in our families, right? So some people have 90s. Well, I mean,
I do. I've got grandmothers who've lived into their 90s.
Yeah,
a lot of people have had people in their family in their
late 70s, early 80s, right? So I can share a story with you of one of our clients that's been a client. I've been in this business for quite some time, and this particular client started with me, early on in my career, right? A second year in my career, I met this lady, and she was set to retire. And now here we are, fast forwarding, 30 years. She's 84 years of age, right? So she always talks to me about all the things she does on her bucket list. One that she loves to do is cross-country ski. 84 years of age, cross-country skiing. She has a great quality of life and doing everything she's always wanted to do and continues to do. So, I can only hope that I'll be around that long, right? But, in our family, it's not that way. So the inflation's, the idea of the eroding is probably more important.
Right. Can I ask you, what is the typical age? How long do you take out your retirement projections in your written financial plans for your folks? Because you're saying the underestimating, nobody knows exactly how long they're going to live. What you do is you ask about history of the family. But how long do you take the money projections out to you, no matter what, with your clients?
So that's a great question. And I think that, for us, we're looking to age 100, right? We want near 100% probability of success. You'll never outlive your money. We never want you to have more life than money. So we project all the way out to age 100 and in just every single case, right? And we really use some very conservative assumptions, right? When I say conservative, as far as performance numbers, very conservative. When you talk about inflation numbers, it's conservative. When I say conservative, higher than average.
Higher, okay.
Yep, higher than average, right? So when you take all that into consideration, and then, that's important. That we want to make sure that, because most people that I know we want to work with also want to leave a legacy. They care about their family, right? It's the family investment legacy and all the intergenerational issues that come along with that, and they want to leave something for their family. So when you look at that, age 100, people are living to age 100. When I teach my classes, I always ask the audience in the classroom, say, how many people do you know age 100? And there's at least 1 or 2 or 3 hands go up, right? So people are living longer with the quality of life. as
All
I
right,
mentioned.
I'm going to ask you one more either or before we wrap up today's program. Which is worse in retirement? Taking too much risk with your investments and not realizing what it can do to your portfolio, or not taking anywhere near enough risk at all to make sure that your money lasts? Either or.
I think taking too much risk
much?
has more impact. And the reason why I say that is because when you take a lot of risk, the potential of loss, right? It's the loss that really can impact your ability to be able to retire the way you want to retire. I've talked in previous shows that if you were down 20 or 30%, it could take you 3, 4, 5 years to get that money back. You tend to live that just-in-case retirement when you fall into that trap, right? And then the idea, you don't live the retirement in which do you set out for yourself, because you got to hold back, right? You should never let the market dictate your future. You should be in control of your future.
I'm sure on the flip side, though, you do see folks who come into your office and they're saying, I don't want to be part of the risky markets. I don't want to be taking too much risk right now. Can we survive with just saving enough for retirement and keeping it in the bank?
So another good point. So I believe that people do that because they don't have the education. They don't really understand what risk is, right? They haven't been taught, right? They haven't spent time to know really what risk is.
And we don't even say it's their fault. There isn't a lot of financial education out there. We've got your program, live events, but financial education is hard to come by.
And I think it's exactly right. So, we teach classes, we find that people just don't know what questions to ask, right? To get the critical facts in which they need. It's unfortunate you don't know what you don't know. But when people start to understand what risk is and they know how it's calculated, it's all about risk versus return, the proper diversification, they feel more comfortable and confident about taking a little bit of risk, because you got to take some risk in order to outpace inflation, right? Yeah. You have to do that, right? But really, even taking risk, you always have to be cognitive of the fact of losses.
Right. So in the complimentary retirement lab session, I would assume we're going to talk about risk, and we'll talk about our investments, a little bit about longevity. What else am I leaving out in the spectrum of the lab?
Well, I think the big fun thing here is we talk about the risk, right? Finding out what your risk number is. Many people aren't aware of what a Sharpe ratio is. Sharpe ratio is your risk-adjusted return. How much loss, how much drawdown will your investments actually take on in the event the market doesn't do well? The lab session is designed to give you a picture of what that might look like and how you'd be impacted by that. It's such an eye-opening experience. You got to take advantage of the lab session to make sure that you get all these critical facts answered for yourself.
Walter West, financial advisor, and it's not just yourself, it's your name on the door, but you've got an entire team of financial advisors who help you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking us through retirement planning today. We're going to be back again next week. Folks, call the phone number you see right here so you can get started on your own retirement lab session, your own complimentary 60-minute meeting covering not only your investments and your risk, but estate planning, taxes, your healthcare choices, all of that and more. Call 888-585-8701 for Walt West. This has been Money in Motion. We'll be back again next week.